Hello, once again. This is Martin Popoff for the Contrarians. This is another one of these episodes where we respond to some of the viewers' feedback. You know, we're pretty good going in there, typing answers to people or arguing back with people or whatever it is. But this allows us to move much quicker, and you know, I like to I like to essentially you know involve the viewers more so in this as well. So it's kind of cool to go through these and read off some of these as tribute to the viewers keeping this conversation going. Because in this Who one, this is the one we're going to be talking about here, the Who face dances episode. You know, I was very hesitant to do this one. As I said in the episode, I almost did it as a Patreon only because I just thought it was such a wacky choice. But having read everybody's comments, I realize that there's a lot of supporters of face dances, and even It's Hard. So this was very surprising to me, and that's why I wanted to get to this one as a feedback episode next. So let's just see what some of the people are saying here. Nicholas Thornley says, just for the record, the Who Sell Out is my favorite Who album. I actually, it's a good choice. I actually went on a buddy show, and one of the guests had picked the Who Sell Out there. It's a pretty interesting album, early concept album, I suppose, right? And the Who were known for that. 666 times 3 says, I've always listened to It's Hard and Face Dances as sort of quasi double album, and I like both a great deal. That's pretty cool. That being said, my pick would be Who by Numbers. Who by Numbers really came up for me even after I did this episode as possibly my favorite. I mean, Who by Numbers right now and Face Dances are neck and neck for me. So great comment there. If the general consensus, this is Doc Dean saying, if the general consensus is that Who's Next is the best, then this would be a rare case where the general consensus is correct. That being said, I like face dances. Yeah, so here's another funny thing to bring up. Who's Next was not winning as, you know, balls out consensus choice as I thought. Like I say, I went on Steve's show, buddy of mine, Steve Keeler, and he had 4 or 5 guests on, and we all had to pick 3. And Who's Next was not just like automatically winning this whole thing. You know, there was a good mix of Quadrophenia in there, of course. There was a lot of Tommy love as well. I don't like Tommy very much. I think I was mentally scarred by the movie when I was a kid, with all that bad lighting and the crazy hippies running around. And the story to me is just a little creepy as well. So I've just never been a big Tommy fan. Let's see what else we got here. Martin, tremendous point about Ronnie Wood looking like Stones, and Keith Jones. LOL. Yeah, it's true. I think he had a great look there. Knox Harrington says, "You" is a kick-ass song, like all the Entwistle songs. I'm not a big fan of almost any of the Entwistle songs. I'm definitely not an Entwistle fan. I think with his writing or with his singing. Larry Fleetwood says, I've always loved You Better You Bet. Such an amazing song, both the album and single version. This is where I paid attention to the Who. Amazing year in rock, 1981. Yeah, it's true. I really think it's an album of the time, and it was a great time, and that's kind of why I picked it. I remember Paul Harper says, I remember this album when I was in junior high school. Hated it. Liked You Better You Bet somewhat, but this was not close to what I liked from the Who. I wanted my hard rock Who. See, there's an interesting point. I don't want a hard rock Who. I like the poppy, introspective Pete Who. I'm not the big hollering Roger Who guy, or the heaviness, because I just love what they do with mellower music and acoustic songs and things like that. Either the Who by Numbers, this is Mike G, Who by Numbers, or Who Are You are my contrarian picks. Not particularly contrarian. Like I say, I think Who by Numbers was badly reviewed at the time. But it's risen a lot in people's consensus, and Who Are You is a fairly loved album as well. Kevin Latham, great supporter of this show and great supporter of my podcast, History in 5 Songs. He says, really enjoyed this episode. Love it when someone argues for a dark horse selection in a band's catalog, especially an influential band such as The Who. I would not say this is the worst album. I tend to think Who by Numbers. I don't know, The Who took the gamble to journey on, but I had to read that at this point, Entwistle and Daltrey wanted to continue as a greatest. Actually, it doesn't continue there. Let's see. Pete can get emotion out of a synthesizer, says Channel Surfer. Who's Next is an existential crisis, as Religious experience, interesting. Here he is burnt out, smoked out, but still unshakable. There's that confidence on this record that I really like. A professional rock record. Yeah, pretty cool. It is professional, that's for sure. But let's see what else we got here. Pete Brown says, I need to go back and listen to this album again. Empty Glass, White City, and All the Best Cowboys by Townsend were all awesome. Totally agree. I love that stuff even more than most Who albums. My entry point for the Who was It's Hard, which I was meh about. Then my older brother turned me on to the older Who albums. Live at Leeds he picks, and a lot of people will pick Live at Leeds, if you're allowed to include those things. Let's see. This is a revelation, like finally getting out of the closet. Now I can scream to everybody that faced. This is Alejandro Rivera. I can scream to everybody that Face Dances is my favorite Who album. It's their most consistent album. Lots of fast songs. I like all the songs on it. It's their new wave album. Every song has great energy and great drumming. Despite the stigma, Keith Moon is dead now. Interesting, yeah. Let's see, Keith Martin, I can't believe it. This is actually my favorite Who album. I always thought it was the only one. I had the LP when it came with the poster. I had the poster too. I remember I got it through the monthly Columbia Record Club, where you had to lick stamps of the album cover and send it through the mail. Wow, that's pretty cool. I don't quite remember that. Let's see, Boiler Room Drum says, and a word about It's Hard. By that time, Townsend was overworked and under too much pressure, and his heart wasn't in it. It was write an album quick. We owe Warner Brothers like 6 albums. Interesting. Let's see. Groove Your Booty says, you're not alone as an album start to finish. It's the most fun for me, along with Who Are You? Interesting. First had it on cassette, which had just the one paint tube on front. Pretty cool. Let's see. How Can You Do It Again in Daily Records? Really? Says Charles Chan. I love Daily Records. But yeah, Marco made some good points about How Can You Do It Alone, sounding like a TV soundtrack thing. I thought it was pretty funny. Let's see. John Bernard says, always loved Face Dances, believe it's highly underrated. A lot of deep cut goodies on it. Pretty cool. SSP says, I like Face Dances, but I think It's Hard is a better album, and I get a lot of flack for my love of it. So do I. I love that album too. I almost put that as high. I literally have about 4 Who albums that I would put very close. It's Hard, Quadrophenia, By Numbers, and Face Dances, which I obviously put as number 1 here. Let's see. Gosh, Martin, you've convinced me, says Laurie Ferdinands. I knew every 70s Who album back to front, but never even ever bothered to listen to Face Dances. Listened this morning while working from home here in Melbourne, Australia. And I have to say, I agree with you. What a fabulous album of well-constructed songs, catchy tunes, brilliantly clever lyrics. Oh, I like that. Let's see, who else we got here? Domi Elikrabi says, I like Martin's statement. It's not the best Who album, but my personal favorite. That's perfectly fine. Exclamation mark. The album is not bad, but it's definitely not the best Who album. To me, it sounds very much done in the spirit of the time, very 80s-like. Reminds me of The Police. Pretty interesting. George Matthew says, my obvious choice is Quadrophenia, but Face Dances to me is a fun album with some rocking tracks like John Entwistle's The Quiet One, the wacky Cash Cash, and the underrated How Can You Do It Alone. And to be super contrarian, by no means my favorite Who album, the 1982 follow-up, It's Hard. Wow. So there's another It's Hard. Let's see. David Gallagher says, there's something about Marco and Martin's dynamic that I really love. Thank you very much. Love all the Contrarian team, and love Martin on Sea of Tranquility, but love the more debatey aspects between you guys. Pretty cool. Let's see. Sean Foudy says, I always love seeing enthusiasm for the album Face Dances. Good. I think why we like a record has to do with the time and place we were in when a record came out. I became obsessed with music around the time of middle school when the Face Dances record came out, as well as Stone's Emotional Rescue. Pretty interesting. Put those two together. Meat and Potatoes says, Face Dances is fun. I first heard this album in 2002, expecting this, and It's Hard to be absolutely terrible due to the criticism from various sources on documentaries and books, but found them to be nice and poppy. And again, I like my Who, nice and poppy. I'm fine with that. Let's see. Brian Westervelt says, I always thought of Face Dances as another Townsend solo album. Never sounded totally like a Who album, except the 2 Entwistle tracks. I mean, Pete is writing all these songs, of course. But you know, the fact that Roger sings so much, I think, always takes these things away from a solo album. But I would rather hear Pete singing on most things. I like Pete's voice. So one of the viewers here called Pete's voice nasally. I don't think it's nasally really at all. But anyways, let's see. Tommy P. Wood says, early Who not heavy enough? Question mark. Whacked. But you like FD face dancing. Don't get it. Generation thing. Hate heavy metal. Nevertheless, I love face dances also. I saw the Who in '82. Excellent. Even with Kenny. Only Black S albums for me. Master of Reality. Oh, Black Sabbath. Okay. Love the album. Can't say it's my favorite, but Another Tricky Day is a great closer. I like the deep cuts on the album. That's pretty cool. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Again, I would say, you know, a nice consensus. It was nice to see that, you know, this was not treated with complete ridicule. I mean, our viewers are very polite, and they have good internet manners, but really, I see a lot of good argument here for liking face dances. And maybe even if it's not your favorite Who album, or you don't think it's the best, I mean, I think, as that one comment said, there's a great argument to be said for it not being their best. But there's a lot of reasons to like face dances. So there you go. That's another feedback episode for you. Keep watching. We knocked off Cheap Trick Busted, worst Cheap Trick album episode this morning. We do have a lot of Patreon exclusive content as well, so we would like to get the Patreon thing going, you know, to turn this into a concern where we can spend even more time on it, which would be really cool. So you could check us out there, and don't forget to subscribe and all that good stuff. Talk to you later.